my apologies first because I'm probably gonna stumble on these videos a little, on this stories a little bit. So I'm thinking about it. So I mean, growing up, I hung out a lot with my mom, and she was like the big influence. And like I've even had friends. I met some friends from China, like in college, and I remember I would talk to them in Chinese, and I would like, oh yeah, and then there was a thing that I used to say, and I say, oh, 好讨厌哦. Maybe you understand Chinese, but I'll say 好讨厌, and my friends would be like, what, why did you say it like that? Why did you say that? And I was like, yeah, because it's 好讨厌, and they're like, David, that sounds really like feminine. Why are you? We don't. People don't say that like that. Guys don't say that like that. And I was like, huh? Really? Why? And I realized that because like the real main influence of my Chinese, the person I talked to the most was my mom, that I started saying very like feminine, like my mom things in Chinese. 好讨厌 means like, I really hate it. So, so like there'd be times where I'm speaking Chinese to my friends. I'd be like, 好讨厌, I really hate that. And they'd be like, just confused at why like this guy was speaking Chinese like very feminine. And it happened to me in like high school. I used to play like tennis. I was on the tennis team, and like, like I remember there was a we were at a tennis meet, and one of the people I had met at the tennis meet, not from my school but a different school, had like approached me, and I was like, hey David, are you gay? And this was back in like the 90s when like being gay was like still very like, oh, and I was like, no, why do you say that? And he's like, I don't know, I got this impression that you might be gay. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And like I've had people ask me all the time. Oh, there was one Brad, like from the show. There was one of my good friends. I actually went to Candytopia with her recently. Her name's Cecile, and I met her in college, and we were friends. And she was dating somebody in college, and but like she was in anime, and I was into anime, and she oftentimes she would just come back to the apartment, and we'd just sit there and watch anime on the couch together. And Brad would come home, and he'd come home, he'd open the door, and he'd see us sitting on the couch, and he was like, oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to like interrupt. And then he'd go to his room or whatever, and then like Cecile would leave, and a couple hours later, and he'd come out. He's like, hey, so y'all are dating? And I was like, no, why? And he's like, does she think you're gay or something? And I'm like, no, why? We're just two friends. We're hanging out. We're watching anime because we like anime. I mean, yeah. I mean, even now, dude. Even now, currently, there's two. I hang out recently a lot with these two girls, and one of them's a good friend of mine, and the other ones are my ex, which is like one of my, like, I always tell her like, you're one of my best friends, because she is. She's the person I probably spend the most time with. The last 7-8 years, I've spent the most time with her, just hanging out and talking about video games, and especially now that we're not dating, and we're even more able to just hang out and just talk about games. There's no like, there's an attraction there, I think, still, but the relationship stuff is not like on our minds anymore. So we're just like, it's awesome because we're able to like just go and work out. Like yesterday, 2 days ago, we went to play DDR, and then yesterday we were doing like one of those insanity workouts, and then today we're supposed to go and we go watch Pomare, the anime movie. There's an anime movie, I guess, by whatever studio, with the Gurren Lagann Kamiya studio. We're supposed to go watch that later today, and I think Korea Festival is on Saturday, and she wants me to go with her for that. And this is what's like, people think that's weird. Like, how can you hang out with your ex? And I don't know why. It's one of those things where there's certain things that I can understand why they would bother people, but I'm just like, well, I'll just get over it. I mean, it's not something that I should let bother me. And like that other girl too is like people constantly are always asking. It's like, oh, are you guys dating? And I was like, no. And they'll ask her too, like, hey, you guys are dating? And they're like, no. And like, why aren't you dating? And I'm like, well, and she'll just be like, I don't know, we're just friends. We just hang out. So I'll tell you. Okay, so here's the story I was going to tell you guys. In college, I was living in college. This was probably my freshman year. I was on the 12th floor, 12 of Jester, I think. And I had me and my roommate Brandon, and we were living together. And he was going out of town for the weekend, and I was like, okay, great, I'll see you later. And he left out of town, and just listen to this. He went out of town, and I was in my room, and I was like, okay, I got nothing to do. So I was like hanging around, talking to people, and I remember there was a girl on the 11th floor below me, and her name I'm not going to use, but yeah, she's a cute girl. You know, she was nice, and we were hanging out, and we were talking and stuff, and she was like, oh, yeah, da da da. Yeah, my roommate's out of town, too. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sucks, man. And she was like, yeah, we should have a sleepover. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, okay, cool. And she was like, yeah, I'll come up to your place. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll be fun. And and so I went back to my room. I was in the 12th floor, and then, you know, and I was like, oh, okay. She shows up, and I was like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Yeah, and we were talking. You know, we were just, you know, hanging out. It was, you know, Saturday night or maybe something. Sunday night? It was probably Saturday night. And then, you know, we were just talking and stuff, and I was like, okay, well, it's getting late. Good night. And I just went into my bed and, you know, put the blankets on and, like, you know, laid down, and she was in my roommate's bed. Like, she was sitting on my roommate's bed. So I guess she must have been like super confused, because she was just like, and she just went to sleep in my roommate's bed because it was a sleepover, right? And I was like, okay, well, she just wants to sleep over. It never, ever dawned in my mind at that time, I guess. Now I guess I could read the signs, but at that time, never dawned in my mind that she wanted something. Maybe she wanted something to happen. This was maybe in 20 years old too, and it's like I was never. I don't know why I didn't pick up on it. Partly because I probably wasn't super, like, I wasn't like super attracted to her, so I wasn't thinking in that way, I guess, maybe. But yeah, and like looking back on it, I felt like such an idiot. And my roommate fucking made fun of me so much too, because he actually, for some reason, he just randomly decided to come back early. So he came back at like 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. You know, opened it up, came in, and then he just like was trying to get in the bed, and he was like, "What the hell?" And he's, there's a girl in his bed, and I'm sleeping in my bed. And then he was like the next day he was like, "Hey, so, you know, so and so was in our room yesterday. Like, what happened? What's up with that?" And I was like, "Oh, she just wanted to sleep over." And so he always like laughed at me and maybe made fun of me for that. And like that's the thing, man. Like, my mom, like, when I was growing up, she was always like, David, like, and she was like, she was like, when I was in college, David, I had lots of guy friends. Like, we'd hang out, we'd go to movies, we'd go on dates, we'd go dancing at the clubs, but like, I never slept around, David, and I never dated, like, I was never like dating all of, like, I was never like, I wouldn't like do any intimate stuff with him. We'd go on dates and we'd hang out. And she that's probably one of the best like things of advice, or I guess for me actually. She was like, David, it's fine. You want to have a lot of girlfriends? Go out there, meet a bunch of girls, date a bunch of girls, go on dates. You know, meet as many as you can. Just don't like lie to them. You know, don't be like, oh, I love you so much. Let's go sleep together. And, you know, don't sleep around. She was like, don't do that. You know, and I was like, okay, yeah. And so, like, that's the thing. I've hung out with a lot of girls, and, you know, to be quite honest, I've liked. It's so weird because this is something I still don't understand to this day. Is like, I'll like put my arms around a girl, I'll hug her, I'll like cuddle her, but I won't sleep with a lot of girls. And for some reason, like, all my friends tell me that's like the weirdest, like, that's fucked up. They're like, that's fucked up, David. That's leading her on. And I was like, how's that leading her on? I was like, how can you like, how is like me sleeping with somebody like not using them, but me like I'm obviously, for me it's like I'm really into you. I'm into you enough to like have you in my room and be like in bed with my arms around you, but for some reason, if I don't sleep with you, that's like the offense. It's like I had somebody tell me it's like that's like taking them right up to the edge and then not closing the deal. And I'm like, how is that the offense? I thought it was worse. Like for me, it's always worse to like sleep with somebody and be like, and then realize like, oh, I'm not into you. I'm not into you. Sorry. Bye. And then just have this like fling. I've always thought that's like the worst offense. But like yeah, I like for me, I'm like okay, well I'm into you enough to like be close to you in this way. I'm letting you into my private life. I'm letting you into my house, into my room, into my bedroom. Like, isn't that like that? I thought like that's just a step to it, right? And then if things go further, then maybe they move forward to something else. But like my friends have always told me, like, dude, no, you're seeing things completely backwards, and that's just some stories about like, you know, me doing stuff that made total sense to me, but like when I look back on it, people are like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? Like, why are you such an alien? Yeah, but yeah, I'll think of some more stories because I'm sure there's tons. Thanks for listening, and I hope that if you're feeling alien too, you're not the only one, or I guess maybe you're alien in a different way. Bye.